early today, President Trump behaved weirdly, even by his standards. He ripped into his own U.S. intelligence community after they openly challenged him. In a series of tweets, the president, who possesses zero experience in foreign intelligence gathering, told his administration's intelligence officials they are naive and should go back to school. And yesterday, the president's top national security officials, including FBI Director Christopher Wray, CIA Director Gina Haspel, and Director of National Intelligence Dan Coats, presented a stark warning about the most pressing security threats to the United States.
The composition of the current threats we face is a toxic mix of strategic competitors, regional powers, weak or failed states, and non-state actors using a variety of tools in overt and subtle ways to achieve their goals.
Well, at times, their assessments directly contradicted the president's more rosy interpretation of the current state of foreign affairs. Let's watch.
And we have won against ISIS. We've beaten them, and we've beaten them badly.
ISIS is intent on resurging and still commands thousands of fighters in Iraq and Syria.
We have made a lot of progress as far as denuclearization is concerned. Things are going very well with North Korea.
North Korea will seek to retain its WMD capabilities and is unlikely to completely give up its nuclear weapons.
I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this. I don't see any reason why it would be.
Not only have the Russians continued to do it in 2018, but we've seen indication that they're continuing to adapt their model and that other countries are taking a very interested eye in that approach.
Well, during that testimony, Director Haspel was asked about Iran's nuclear capabilities. Her seasoned assessment did not align with that of the president's. Take a look.
Since our departure from the deal, they have abided by the terms. You're saying they're considering, but at the current moment, they're...
Yes, they're making some preparations that would increase their ability to take a step back if they make that decision. So at the moment, technically, they're in compliance.
In compliance, President Trump was particularly disturbed by that perspective, tweeting, "The intelligence people seem to be extremely passive and naive when it comes to the dangers of Iran. They are wrong." Well, in response to the president, former CIA Director John Brennan, who spent 25 years with the agency, tweeted, "Your refusal to accept the unanimous assessment of U.S. intelligence on Iran, North Korea, ISIS, Russia, and so much more shows the extent of your intellectual bankruptcy. All Americans, especially members of Congress, need to understand the danger you pose to our national security." John Brennan joins me now. What is the danger of the president being basically out to lunch about the real threats out there?
Well, there are several. First of all, it is very dispiriting to the members of the intelligence community who work day and night to try to keep this country safe. So his public disparagement of their leaders, I think, did not go down well. I would say that Donald Trump should be ashamed of himself, but I know he knows no shame. But more importantly, people around the world and other governments around the world, both our partners and our adversaries, how are they going to take seriously what U.S. intelligence says if Donald Trump continues to disagree with it publicly, and not just disagree with it? That's fine. You can disagree with it. But to be insulting and be disparaging of it is something that I think there are a lot of folks who are just wondering what Donald Trump is thinking when he does something like that to the intelligence community of the United States.
What's his motive? But first of all, I want to ask you a bigger question, because it's great to have you here. What should we be worried about? When you worry in the middle of the night and you wake up, you think, you know, in 20 years, we're going to have a real problem, and this is getting worse, and we're not working on it. What are those areas?
Well, I don't think he understands the complexities of the problems associated with North Korea's nuclear program. We have not gotten anything from the North Koreans, and I think Kim Jong-un has demonstrated just how easy it is to play Donald Trump like a fiddle, which is what he has done. And there's going to be another summit, and I think he has been duped by Kim Jong-un. Iran, tearing up the U.S. agreement with Iran, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, when it was a unanimous agreement of the UN Security Council, and provoking the Iranians now. and pushing them in the direction that we were trying to dissuade them from previously. I don't know whether or not he's looking for some type of confrontation, a military clash or whatever, but these are things that he needs to be mindful of, just how impactful it is on U.S. national security interests. His reckless announcement about pulling U.S. troops out of Syria, I don't know what we're going to do in Afghanistan, but what we can't do is just to give up all the progress that we've made in these areas because of his independent recklessness.
Do you think he recognizes reality on the globe? I mean, the world we live in, is he like a 5-year-old kid or 8-year-old kid who says, I'm not drinking my milk, I don't care how good it is, what is his resistance about to reality, do you think?
Well, I don't want to insult 5 and 8-year-olds, quite frankly, but he does have this petulance. He does have this sense that he knows better than everybody else. He says he knows military better than the generals. He knows intelligence better than intelligence professionals. He knows technology better than anyone else. It is just something that he is blinded by his own arrogance, and it's very unwarranted because the world stage is a very complex one, and the more he just goes in with his gut and the less he listens to intelligence and diplomats and our military officials and generals, the less he's going to be able to protect our national security.
Well, last night, this is getting weirder, but it is Fox. Lou Dobbs attacked Dan Coats, who's DNI right now, the top intelligence guy in the country, calling him anti-Trump, because Mr. Coates provided a nonpartisan assessment of our global threats. Take a look.
What in the world is the intelligence community doing? Are they persisting in what they started as this president was a candidate? They're anti-Trump. Okay, great. Get over your bad selves. He's the commander-in-chief. I mean, there's something rancidly wrong with this intelligence community.
What do you make of that? He's ransacking, he's attacking them for doing their job of telling the president the truth. It's not the president's job to be the G2 for these guys and tell them what's going on.
There is something rancidly wrong with the obsequiousness shown by people like Lou Dobbs and others who are allowing Donald Trump to get away with this. Good on Dan Coats, good on Gina Haspel for speaking exactly what the intelligence community believes about these very critical national security issues. And they need to be able to continue to say that with the force of the confidence that they have in the assessments, which they did. So I am big fans of Dan Coats and Gina Haspel more today than I ever was before.
I just wonder, what do you think Trump would have done during the Cuban Missile Crisis when they came to him with pictures and said, here's the objective fact. They're putting intermediate range missiles in that can hit every city but Seattle. Do you think he would recognize the truth? Is he capable of seeing the truth when it's placed in front of him?
I shudder to think. And over the last 50, 60 years, the advancements in weapon systems has just been exponential. And if we're confronted with a situation like that today, God help us in terms of what Donald Trump may decide to do, given that he is the commander-in-chief and has these authorities. And that's why the members of Congress, particularly Republicans, who continue to enable it, should be ashamed of themselves.
Do you think he might go to war with Venezuela or Iran to get him out of his political problems? Would he wag the dog?
I certainly hope not. And I'm hoping that the officials in the White House and the Pentagon and the intelligence community will stop him from doing that.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.